Two important hazards to be aware of when moving around operational aircraft are jet blast and aircraft engine ingestion. Air is sucked into the aircraft's engines from the air surrounding the intakes. A red flashing aircraft warning beacon on the top and bottom of the aircraft will warn you that its engines may be operating or about to be turned on. Always pay attention and remain clear of the aircraft and its engine ingestion signs when its red warning beacon is flashing. Jet blast is the exhaust from an aircraft's jet engine, which does vary depending on the thrust settings applied by flight crew, but can easily exceed the wind speeds found in a tropical cyclone. It can often be overlooked, but jet blast can be an unseen hazard to people and equipment airside. Jet blast can blow away unsecured ULD containers or turn any unsecured foreign object debris into potential missiles, which is hazardous to ramp personnel and can damage nearby equipment and aircraft. Here are some safety tips to minimize the risk of jet blast to yourself, others, and equipment on the ramp. To reduce the need for aircraft to apply higher thrust settings, ensure the path is clear for the aircraft coming into bay. Whilst aircraft are required to use minimal thrust when manoeuvring on the apron, if the aircraft has to slow or stop prior to arriving on bay, it may need to apply more power or breakaway thrust to get moving again. As power increases, so too does the jet blast profile behind the aircraft. Prior to an aircraft's arrival, ensure that bay is set up correctly and check for any obstacles. This includes ensuring all equipment is staged behind equipment storage or clearance markings, and all personnel remain well clear of the moving aircraft. Conducting a pre-arrival FOD walk to remove any debris from the apron, and making sure aero bridges are appropriately positioned and the nose-in guidance system is set or a marshaller in place to guide the aircraft on bay. Adjacent bays may also be impacted by jet blast and especially breakaway thrust in the event an aircraft stops prior to taxiing onto the bay. Avoid staging equipment behind aircraft that may be affected by jet blast. Jet blast also impacts airside roadways. Take these steps to minimise the impact jet blast may have on vehicles and equipment on airside roadways. Before proceeding across a live taxiway crossing where an aircraft has just taxied through, allow at least one aircraft length before proceeding to allow any remaining jet blast to dissipate. Always secure any loose loads being towed and ensure ULD container curtains are closed and secured, and the container locks on rolling stock are engaged. Information on affected airside roadways can be found in the apron operating procedures.
My name is Rebecca Johnson and I'm head of the Australian Centre for Wildlife Genomics here at the Australian Museum, where we do quite a lot of work with the aviation industry. People are often surprised that the Australian Museum works so closely with the aviation industry, but the role that we play is assisting them with identification of the different animals that hit planes. And that happens on average about 4 times a day in Australia. It's usually not the kind of thing that you hear on the news, but it does happen fairly frequently. It is pretty extraordinary that a bird, given the right force, can actually tear metal. These engines are made of the highest grade alloy you can possibly get. So the more that we know about the behaviour of wildlife at airports, the more we can work towards minimising the interactions between wildlife and aircraft. In some cases, they've even changed flight times to avoid what they know is going to be a busy time for wildlife in the skies. The Australian Museum is involved with the aviation industry in a few interesting ways. We kind of turn them into mini CSI investigators. We send out instructions for how they sample wildlife from aircraft. We send them out kits with gloves and swabs and bags so that they can bag up the material and send it back to us. Probably sounds a little unusual to receive some bits and pieces of birds in the post, but this kind of thing is genuinely important to assisting aviation safety in Australia. The kind of work that we do with the aviation industry obviously has real implications for improving safety in the aviation industry, but also these things do cost money. As soon as a bird hits a plane, there is a runway inspection required. It potentially does cost money if it causes damage, and absolutely it costs money if a delay is incurred. birds and aircraft have to live happily ever after together. We have to share the skies. We always have. In fact, birds were here before aircraft. And I don't think anyone wants to imagine a life without birds, and probably no one wants to imagine a life without aircraft. So I think that the more we work towards it, the more we can safely share the skies together.